Welcome, early American literature friends. This video is a guide and a discussion of the Cask of Amontillado. This has become, in some ways, Poe's most famous story because it has become this story that is often meant to represent his work as a whole, and it has been parodied a bunch of times because you only get two characters. You get Montresor, the narrator, and Fortunato, the person who has offended him. And behind their relationship, Fortunato is drunk, and it's carnival season. If you don't know what carnival season is, it's like Mardi Gras in this country. We don't really have this tradition in this country like they do in Europe of carnival season connected to Catholicism and the Catholic Church, and the coming of spring and sort of like Fat Tuesday. But there is this tradition in Europe especially where this story is very clearly set of carnival season and everybody being drunk and sort of debauchery. Fortunato is even dressed ironically like a jester, including like the cap with the jingling bells, the traditional jester's costume, which is also ironic, obviously, because he thinks, when you get to the end of the story, he thinks or hopes that Montresor is playing this joke on him, but it's obviously not a joke. Montresor is serious and wants revenge. That's another reason this story has become so famous, is because it's just a story of revenge at its core. Montresor wants revenge on Fortunato. And this is the story of him getting it, the story of how he gets it. And he has this very definitive philosophy of how revenge is supposed to work and how revenge works, the purest, best revenge, which he gives you in the first few paragraphs. But behind that too is the mystery, the thing that Montresor, this works kind of like a confession, kind of like the Black Cat. But you find out at the end of the story that the story that you're being told happened 50 years ago, and Montresor got away with it and never told anybody. And so that at this point, Fortunato's bones have just joined all the other bones in the tombs where Montresor buries him. But you never know. You get the first line of this story: "The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge." But you never know what the injuries or insults are, or exactly what is being described in that first sentence. That is as much as you ever get about the motivation of Montresor and why he is willing to go so far as to kill this person who has insulted him. But you never know what the insult is or exactly what's happening. This is just a story of, if you take the story as a whole, it's this person confessing or describing 50 years later this murder that they committed, and you don't know exactly why they committed it. What is being described here is how they committed it. And that is the sort of psychological aspect of this story, is the how they committed it, because Montresor essentially manipulates Fortunato. He finds Fortunato during carnival season. During the carnival, Fortunato's already intoxicated, and Montresor gives him more alcohol as they go through to keep him intoxicated and keep him going. And he uses a kind of reverse psychology and says, "Look, I can tell you've got a little cough. Let's not go down into the tombs. Let's not go down into the basement where I keep my wine. Like, it's not going to be good for your cough." You get that where he describes that there is niter, which is potassium nitrate, which he can see in the rocks of the tombs in the basement, and it's not good. I mean, it is medically true that it's not good for your cough because of the way it creates a response in humans' lungs. But he sort of expresses this fake concern. But Montresor is like, "No, I just want to get to the Amontillado. I just want to taste it and see if it's real or not." He plays upon Montresor's sort of pride in his ability to distinguish good wine and bad wine, and he says, "Look, this other guy, he's nothing. He can't tell the difference between wine and between Amontillado and sherry." And he plays on Fortunato's pride and his intoxication and manipulates him both down into the cellar into the tombs, and then he manipulates him to keep going right up to the point that he manipulates him into the dead end so that he can chain him to the wall, and then brick him up, and so that the confession at the end is nobody has disturbed the wall, nobody has found Fortunato or discovered what has happened to him, and it's been 50 years. So this person has clearly lived their life having gotten away with this murder. I vowed revenge. You who so well know the nature of my soul will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. Again, part of what's happening in this story, in the framework of it at the very beginning and the very end, is this is his secret, and he never mentioned anybody what he was going to do. His plan was totally his own, and in 50 years he has never he has never told anybody what happened. This is just his big secret that he has kept. The plan was a secret, the murder was a secret, it's all just this big secret. But then he gives you his definition of revenge. At length I would be avenged. This is a point definitively settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. So the punish with impunity part is he wants to punish Fortunato, but he doesn't want to be caught or known or punished himself. And so he has to have impunity. He can't then in turn be punished or something like that. Nobody can know, nobody can punish him. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. And so what he means is the person getting revenge can't damage themselves in the process of getting revenge, or it's pointless. Like the damage overtakes the person getting revenge. The person getting revenge can't be more damaged in the pursuit of revenge than the person they're getting revenge on. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. And so the person who is being punished, in this case Fortunato, must also know that they are being punished, that the revenge is being gotten, and who is doing it to them. So they must recognize. So there is this very specific set of circumstances where Montresor, the narrator, explains how the revenge has to work, which is the person getting revenge can't get caught or feel any kind of punishment from it, but the person who is getting revenge, who is the victim of the revenge, in this case Fortunato, has to feel the revenge and know that it's revenge, understand the getting of revenge is happening. So that's how it works. He gives you this very specific description of how the revenge has to work. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile on his face, as he did not perceive that my smile now is the thought of his immolation. So when you get this first hint of the darkness here, because when Montresor smiles at Fortunato, he's smiling at the thought of how he's going to get him, how he's going to get his revenge. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship of his wine. And so here you get Montresor, the narrator, pulling at the thread. He sees the weak spot, the thread that he can pull at and get to Fortunato. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time. But he says, Fortunato prides himself. Fortunato, like his countryman, was a quack, but in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. And so he knows that he can sort of play on Fortunato's sense of pride in himself, that he's a wine connoisseur. It's about dusk. It's sunset, it's dusk, the darkness is coming. Like literally outside, it's sunset and the darkness is coming, and the darkness is coming in the story here too. One evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season, again, it's like this sort of Mardi Gras carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. So the situation's perfect now for Montresor to get revenge. It's carnival season, everything's crazy and hectic. Nobody's going to really notice that Fortunato disappears for a while. It's sunset, so it's going to be hard to see, somebody disappearing off the street. And Fortunato's drunk, so he's easy to take advantage of. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. So Fortunato is dressed like a fool, and Montresor is about to make a fool of him in the darkest, harshest sense. He's about to fool Fortunato and play him for a fool. I said to him, my dear Fortunato, you're luckily met. How remarkably well you're looking to today, but I've received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts. And Fortunato can't believe that he has gotten this expensive, high-quality wine in the middle of Carnival, and is like, you must have been taken advantage of. Montresor says, you are not to be found. I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado, I have my doubts. Amontillado, I must satisfy them. Amontillado. And then Montresor succeeds in making Fortunato jealous, because he says he's going to go see this other guy, Lucchesi. And Fortunato says, Lucchesi can't tell Amontillado from Sherry. And so he plays on Fortunato's weakness and makes him jealous, and Fortunato says, forget that other guy, let's go right now. Come, let us go. You get right there, Fortunato. To your vaults, I have no engagement, come. Let us go nevertheless, the cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. And as for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish Sherry from Amontillado. And he manipulates him so effectively that Montresor doesn't have to, encourage Fortunato to come. Fortunato grabs him by the arm. Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, and pulls him to the vaults, to the wine cellar. And Montresor has set this up so that all of his servants, all the people that work at his house, they had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. So he makes sure that they have all gone to Carnival, so there's no witnesses, nobody to catch him or even see that Fortunato is going to his house. He gets 2 torches, one for himself, one for Fortunato, and they go. I bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults, and so they go down into the old tombs, into the vaults where they would have stored wine. Passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. Again, the unsteadiness, the reminder that Fortunato is drunk. And here he sort of tricks. He again plays on Fortunato's pride and says, look, you see this potassium nitrate, the niter in the walls. Are you sure you've got a cough? Are you sure you want to come down here? And Fortunato's like, no, I'm fine. I just want to get to the wine. Let's get to the wine. And you get this process where they go through the wine. They have this conversation. He continually plays on Fortunato's pride. He also says, a draught of this Medoc will defend us from the damp. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle, which I drew from a long row of its fellows. Drink, I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. And so Fortunato's already drunk, and he's like, yeah, let's keep drinking. And so Montresor offers him this wine, and Fortunato's like, yeah, let's keep drinking. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly while his bells jingled. Again, multiple times in this story, the bells on his jester's hat rings, and it reminds you, Poe's reminding you he's being made a fool of. Montresor is playing him as a fool. I drink, he said, to the buried that repose around us, and I to your long life. Obviously a sarcastic line from Montresor there, because he says, I'm toasting your long life when he's leading Fortunato to his death. He again took my arm. We proceeded. These vaults, he said, are extensive. And then you get this sequence tucked in the middle of the story. The Montresors were a great and numerous family. And Fortunato says, I forget your arms. And he means like the family coat of arms. And Montresor says, a huge human foot in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel. And the motto, Nemo me impune lacessit, which is, and excuse my Latin there, which is, and I have to find the translation. I'm sorry. The translation is, let me give you the translation here. No one insults me with impunity is the translation of the Latin motto on their field. And so right here you get this coat of arms, no one insults me with impunity, and then the foot crushing the serpent. And it's very clearly this foreshadowing, which Fortunato is too drunk to realize, or it just goes over his head because he's so intoxicated. But it's very clearly this foreshadowing, this both the story foreshadowing and Montresor foreshadowing what's coming, that you can't insult me without me getting revenge. You can't insult me with impunity. And again, the wine sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. The combination of the intoxication and him being made a fool of, and here we go. We're going down. We're going down to the revenge. They keep walking and walking and walking. The niter, the potassium nitrate in the walls gets worse and worse and worse. And Montresor's like, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you're okay, friends?" Again, sort of playing with him. And Fortunato says, "It's nothing. Let us go on." But first, another draft of Medoc. Again, they keep the wine going. Montresor is sure to keep the wine going, keep him intoxicated. There is also this other moment in the story, and it's this moment right here where Fortunato says, "You do not comprehend," where he makes this sort of gesture. Montresor doesn't understand it. Then you are not of the Brotherhood, and it's a reference to the Freemasons and Masonry and this secret society. It is another moment, if you understand this moment, it is a moment where "You impossible, a mason, I replied. "A sign," he said. "It is this," I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my roquelaire. "You jest, but let us proceed to the Amontillado." Fortunato is once again insulting Montresor by saying, "Oh, you couldn't be a mason, you couldn't be in the secret society." Montresor turns it into a practical joke because he pulls out the trowel that he is going to use to spread the concrete to help him, that he puts between the bricks to wall up Montresor. And so Fortunato insults Montresor again by saying, "Oh no, you're not high enough, you're not good enough to be a Freemason, to be in the secret brotherhood of the Masons." Montresor turns it into a joke and says, "Oh yeah, I'm a Mason because I'm about to be a bricklayer. I'm about to lay the bricks, to wall you up and kill you, starve you to death." "Be it so," I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. Again, this reminder that Fortunato is intoxicated, is drunk. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious, and it is this small crypt at the end of the crypt. We perceived a still interior recess in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. And this is this little sort of alcove or little cubby where Montresor tricks Fortunato into walking into it like there's another hallway through there, when it's really just a dead end. It's the very end of the crypts. And so he tricks Fortunato into walking back there, and then he locks the chain around him and then starts walling him up. "Proceed," I said. "Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchese, he is an ignoramus." A moment more and I had fettered him to the granite, and its surface were 2 iron staples. This is where the 2 ends of the chain are stapled with big iron staples into the rock wall, into the granite, he says. "From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it." And so while Fortunato sort of drunkenly stumbles into this dead end, into this granite wall, before he can realize what's happening, Montresor chains him to the wall. Withdrawing the key, I step back from the recess. "Pass your hand over the wall. You cannot help feeling the niter. It is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No, then I will positively leave you." And this is where the sort of darkness comes out. And Montresor is like, "Haha, I've got you. You sure you don't want to go back? Oh, wait, you can't go back because now you're chained to the wall." "The Amontillado." "True," I replied, "the Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. And so he is under the bones of his ancestors, the people who came up with the coat of arms and the motto about getting revenge, and how you can't insult me without me getting revenge. He pulls out these tools, the stones and the mortar, the cement, the mix, to hold the stones together, and he starts laying the brick to wall Fortunato up alive in the bottom of the crypt where nobody can find him, nobody can hear him screaming for help. I had scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. Fortunato, when he realizes what's happening, that he's chained up in the wall, gets sober quick and is like, hey, what's going on? It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was a long and obstinate silence. And so he lays the second row of bricks and then the third. Then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes. And so Fortunato is trying to get him to unchain himself, to get out of the chain. And while he rattles the chain and tries to get out, tries to reach and see if he can get out or not, Montresor just sits down. I ceased my labors, sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel, finished the 5th, 6th, and the 7th tier. So he's building the wall up. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. A succession of loud and shrill screams burst suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. And so Fortunato has finally fully accepted what is happening and is screaming, but they're so deep in the vault now. Montresor has tricked him all to go all the way down to the very bottom of the vault, and they're so deep nobody can hear them, and there's no one home at his house to hear them anyway. So it was now midnight. My task was drawing to a close. I completed the 8th, 9th, and 10th tier. I finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone, and so he's got one last brick to put in. I struggled with its weight, but now there came from out of the niche a low laugh. And this is where Fortunato's like, ha ha, you're playing a joke on me. The voice said, ha ha ha, he he he. A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it over at the Palazzo. The Amontillado, I said. And so Montresor's final joke is, ha ha, tricked you down here with the wine. I got the best of you. Yes, the Amontillado, but is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, I said, let us be gone. And so Montresor is saying, look, let's let the joke be over and we'll get out of here. And Montresor replies, yes, let us be gone. He's like, yeah, let me put this last brick in and I'll be out of here, and you'll be gone too soon. For the love of God, Montresor, yes, I said, for the love of God. Fortunato, no answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture, let it fall within. So he drops a torch. He drops Fortunato's torch in through the hole. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. And so it's like Fortunato has accepted the joke and is like, he's not going to answer. He's not going to talk anymore. He's just in the darkness, jingling the bells. My heart grew sick. I hastened to make an end of my labor. He gets the last brick, and I forced the last stone into its position, plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones, so he stacked some bones there to make it look like the old thing. And then you get the sort of twist at the end. For the half of a century, no mortal has disturbed them. So you discover here at the end that he is confessing or telling you or describing this thing that happened 50 years ago. So he has clearly gotten away with the crime. In pace requiescat, which is rest in peace. And so what you get here is not so much a confession, because this is a thing that happened 50 years ago, but this sort of, he is finally letting the narrator, Montresor, is finally letting you in on the secret. And he has to be obviously, elderly at this point, 65, 70, 75 years old, if not older. And so he is telling you like his dark secrets. You get the explanation, the description of the dark secret, but you don't really get an explanation because you don't know why he did it. And so he's just explaining most likely the darkest, meanest thing he ever did. He tells you the story of how he got his revenge on this person who insulted him. This fits into Poe's sort of Gothic and romantic tendencies, because one of the characteristics of the Gothic, of course, is both extreme emotional states like fear and terror, and revenge that would drive you to kill somebody, but it is also grotesque because you get somebody acting out this sort of cold-blooded murder, which is obviously beyond the bounds of normal behavior and expectations and what you would normally encounter. So I hope that helps you understand this story and also fit it into Poe and the other stories we've talked about of Poe, and understand how it applies to his sort of gothic fixtures with this sort of extreme, with these extreme emotional states like terror and fear and revenge, but also this extreme behavior, this extreme out of the ordinary situation. Hope y'all are doing well, and hope this was useful to you.